Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up today. Happy New Year. Um, Welcome. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 Facebook group. I see people are showing up. I'd love if you could put into the chat where you're watching from, and most importantly, what year in high school your student is. And if you've started researching colleges and started to understand merit scholarships. If you're a member of the Facebook group, you probably have been seeing people sharing um, their information about the students who've gotten merit scholarships or about their journeys. Some good, some not so good. This is kind of what happens this time of year. And you're going to continue to see it from now until now until May. So I see that Sylvia, you've raised your hand. Do you want to say anything, or I guess you can't say anything because it's a webinar. Do you want to share anything, or I can allow you to talk? Is there anything you wanted to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think the chat is disabled, at least on
Oh,
my end.
thank you. Thanks for, huh? Does the Q&A come up? The Q&A is coming up. Chat is disabled. Thanks for telling me, guys. Sorry. That's weird. It's listed. Okay, so if you got,
I I guess we can use the Q&A.
yeah, use the Q&A. I apologize. This is the first beginning of the year. We switched from doing meetings to official webinars, and maybe something didn't get set up correctly. So, so, so nix what I said about going into the chat. I guess just put it in as a question um, into the Q&A. I definitely see the Q&As going. Thank you. So sorry about that. That's weird. Chat is showing up on my end, but I'll have to look at it after the webinar's over. But thanks for letting you know. Thanks, Sylvia. And if anybody else, I'm going to take you off if that's okay. If anybody else wants to ever ask a question and not actually put it into the Q&A or raise their hand and say something, please do. That's the reason why I liked doing meetings, but we switched to webinars because it honestly gives us some better tracking about who shows up and who doesn't show up. But okay, so let me see. Lots of sophomores, which is great. Juniors, class of 2027. Twin seniors, I feel for you. Wait, oh, Yvette, I know you. Okay, lots of different people from different parts of the country. Thanks. I'm going to switch and go to my slides, which I'm basically going to tell you guys about what merit scholarships are, the fundamentals about how to search for them. I'm going to share with you our insights tool, which makes it easier to search. I have to say, I don't think that this process is complicated once you understand it. I think it feels overwhelming because there is a lot of data and people don't know where to look. But once you understand the framework, it's not as hard as you think, but it does take time. And you definitely need to get the data to understand what's going on. So let me share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. So just to make sure, if somebody could just put it, I guess, into the Q&A for now, that you can see my screen, I would appreciate it. Yes, thank you. Okay, good. Okay, so we're talking about merit scholarships and how you can build a college list. I'm also going to talk about a little bit about SAI, which is called Student Aid Index. For those of you, particularly sophomores and juniors, you're probably not familiar with that because that needs to be a part of understanding merit scholarships and building a college list. And then I'm going to show you college insights. I'm also going to show you a new report that we created to also make things easier for people. Okay, so I've had this slide for many years. I keep it in because I like to explain to people, why do we focus so much on merit scholarships? Um, and it's really because of what we're going to talk about on this slide. Uh, Paying for college has become such an issue. I don't really need to go into the details about that. We all know it, we all feel it. I mean, to tell you the truth, I've been doing this for 10 years. I was in I would call it the personal finance space before this, where I worked for companies like Fidelity Investments and Vanguard, and I help people understand their finances. And what I came to realize about paying for college is that it was a life stage that people weren't paying attention to from a financial standpoint. And it is a financial decision that can impact two generations at the same time. And it's really one of the only decisions that has that type of far reaching impact. It can impact the parents because because parents are still paying the bulk of the cost. So, if the parent has to borrow, it's impacting their retirement, which is coming close. And it obviously impacts the student about how much debt they take on and how much they have to pay off as they're starting off their life. So, people just weren't paying enough attention about the cost of college. I think even 10 years ago, and I just remember thinking, boy, this is such an important decision that there just isn't enough conversation around how to handle it. And that's really how I got involved in the space. And when you think about paying for college, right, there's really only three big buckets that money is going to come from. It's either going to come from the family itself, from savings that people have been able to put away. And I make no judgment about what people have been able to save or not, because we never know people's family situations over the past 18 years. We don't know if there's been illnesses or issues with employment or extended family support that needs to happen. So, but hopefully people have been able to do some sort of savings, but you only have 18 years to do that. And then maybe you've got some outside, other family members like grandparents that can help out. That's always really nice. But basically, there's your bucket of family contribution, and some people, as their student goes to college, are really buckle down on their daily expenses and try to cash flow more money from their current income to be able to add to whatever savings. But there's only so much that you have from your actual family that you can contribute, and hopefully you can do as much as you can. And then there's what we're going to talk about today: free money. And free money comes from a few different sources. The biggest source of free money comes from the college itself. I'm going to repeat that. The biggest source of free money comes from the college itself. And that's only if you research and you find the colleges that offer that type of money to your student. And that's really obviously what we're going to talk about today. You see a lot of posts in the Facebook group or other social media platforms where people are saying, what's a good site that I could use for scholarships? I am not poo-pooing private scholarships. They are definitely a source. They are never going to get you the same amount of money as the college itself. There are on the edges, yes, you read those stories of those students who were able to fund their entire college career, 4 years with private scholarships. It happens, but those are on the peripheral. The main source of money comes from the college. Private scholarships, fill in a little bit here and there. But I got to tell you, if you look at the amount of work it takes to get private scholarships versus the amount of research it will take you to get find the right colleges that offer the right money, you will get a much bigger payoff in doing the research to find colleges with merit scholarships than you will to find private scholarships. Somebody is asking the name of the Facebook group. It is called Paying for College 101. So there is there are a few other Facebook groups, oops, sorry, that might also be called Paying for College because they, copied us, but we are the original. And again, it's Paying for College 101. So go and just answer our questions, and we will review the membership requests and let you in. Okay, so family contribution, then you're going to want to find as much free money as you can, which the bulk of it is going to come from the college. And the college is either going to give it to your student because they feel that your student has a financial need, which we're going to talk about, or they're giving you the money because your student has met some academic criteria where they feel that they want to award the student for their work in a form of, a scholarship. And then when you combine those two sources, whatever money you can pay for college, whatever money the college is offering your student, there still might be a gap for a lot of people. And then the primary source that people go to is loans. And there's, again, two main sources of loans. One source is from the federal government. The other source is from private loans. Some amount of borrowing is not bad. And we talk about that in other webinars, like how much borrowing is okay and how much is too much. There are basic loans they're called for that the federal government gives just for students, student direct federal loans. And actually, if a student ends up having to borrow that amount of money over the 4 years, that's actually pretty manageable debt. Honestly, the government maxes out how much that you can borrow, how much a student can borrow. And over the 4 years, most students max out at around $28,000. Sometimes you can go up a little bit higher to 31,000, depending if you have some circumstances. But that's it. 4 years, basically $28,000. That's all your student's going to be able to borrow. Shelley, sorry, the chat is disabled, not on purpose. There's a setting that was set before the webinar got started. And so we're just going to use the Q&A for today. I will definitely fix the chat by the time we do another webinar. So just put in any questions or comments into the Q&A. And then the other change that's happened this year, and we're going to have some webinars about it in the next month and two, are about other changes that the government has put into place. I'm sure you've heard about this, but maybe not in detail, to the types of loans that parents can take out from the government. So up until this year, parents were allowed to, on some level, almost do some unlimited borrowing. They could borrow whatever the gap was that was left that they needed to cover, that their family contribution didn't cover and free money didn't cover. And they could borrow that amount up to what they call the cost of attendance that the college has stated. So I'll just give you a quick example. If you only had $10,000, a year to pay for college, but your student was maybe able to get $20,000 from the college, but the college cost $60,000. And there was this gap of $30,000. If you had no other resources, you could go to the federal government as a parent and borrow the $30,000 as a Parent Plus loan, which has a very, very loose criteria of, almost everybody who applies for that loan gets it. And again, I noticed this like 10 years ago. That was where the problem was happening, and that's where the majority of debt was piling up. It was actually with parents, not so much with students, because the student loans were always capped. So now with the new basically regulations in place, and they are going to be in place for families with current seniors and everybody behind them, parents are capped now as to how much they can borrow from the federal government. And the total over 4 years for your student is $65,000. So that means between two parents, you can only borrow a total of $65,000 for your student over 4 years. And we'll go into detail about that in a different webinar, but basically you can only borrow $20,000 a year for the first 3 years. And then you can have $5,000 in the last year. So you really have to manage your finances and understand all of this before your student accepts a, um, a decision at a college. And I would actually say you can understand all of this financial implications before your student even starts searching for colleges. And that's really our goal is to get people to think about is what is your family's budget? How much debt are you willing to take on? Again, I think it's okay to take on some debt, but it needs to be manageable. And then, what are the costs of the colleges your student is looking at, and what is this gap? And can you find colleges that can cover the gap in terms of some sort of free money? Okay, let me move on. Somebody's asking, this is recorded, and yes, you will get a link to the recording tomorrow. So, why is the college list so important? When you think about it, to me, it is the gateway. It is the stage of the process that determines so much. Once your student has a college list, right, those are the colleges that they're going to apply to. Your student can only get accepted from a college they apply to. They can only get money from a college they apply to. I see so many posts, and you're going to start to see them between now and April and May, where people say, my student didn't get any merit scholarships from this college. Well, they didn't even understand to check to see that college doesn't offer merit scholarships. So it's like you're expecting money from a college that doesn't even offer scholarships. So doing the research before, which is completely possible, and helping determine which of those colleges on your student's list can give your student scholarships and money is the gateway to making sure that you have some affordable options once your student is accepted. So that college list is critical. It's going to determine where your student gets in. It's going to determine how much money your student can get from a college. And then some smaller but important things is it's also going to determine how much work it takes your student to do. Again, you might have seen this in the Facebook group, but the more colleges, depending on the colleges your student applies to, it just means more essays. Depending on the types of merit scholarships they apply to, it also might mean some more like scholarship applications, which mean more work. But again, I think that if you're prepared, if your student's prepared, this work is going to really pay off in options. And that's what you want. You want options of where your student can choose to go to. You want financial options of different types of schools and how much they cost. So you don't feel like there's no choice come next April and May for your student when you have to make a decision, that you're not backed against the wall, that my student only got accepted to a school, but we can't afford it. You want to avoid that at all costs. So merit scholarships, merit aid, tuition discount, these are all words you're going to hear about the type of money that colleges offer. Some are true scholarships, and I'll talk more about that, where only a few students get them. There is an application process. Other schools do use merit scholarship money kind of as a marketing tool in their toolkit of trying to enroll students. And you could say that it is just like a discount because they might have an advertised sticker price of $60,000, but they end up giving every student, $25,000 off. So, it's not really as selective as a scholarship as you might think, because everybody is getting this discount. And that's true too. So there's like a range of how colleges use this concept of a scholarship. I just read an article by someone who I really respect in the higher education world. His name is John Bokenstadt. If anybody wants to look him up, it's Jon. And he talked about, well, why aren't some of these colleges that give out a tuition discount to so many students, why don't they just reduce their costs? Like, why don't they just say, hey, instead of 60,000, we're going to make tuition, we're going to make their cost of attendance, 40,000. And there's, a lot of, I mean, conceptually, he said it's the right thing to do, but in the practice of business, if you want to, and college admissions is a business. So in the business of enrollment management, which is another term you might hear, it's really difficult to just kind of reset your tuition because it's signaling to other colleges that hey, my college might not be valued as much as other people might value it because, again, in our culture, sticker price kind of sends a certain sense of what that college, the value of that college in the ecosystem of all other colleges. And the other thing is that actually, there are some students, even if they might be small percentage, that may end up paying the full price. So then you're sacrificing those students who, if you reset it for everybody, of paying the full price. And there actually might be students that paid less than the average, and they end up paying more. So you don't actually end up satisfying anybody by resetting the tuition. And then, unfortunately, this kind of, and I will call it a game, this game of discounts and merit scholarships continues because if one college resets their tuition and other colleges don't follow, then that one college kind of stands out there like alone, and they look strange. And the reality is that most of the other colleges aren't going to follow them, and the system continues. So somebody's asking, does the sticker price also have to do with foreign students? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking because there's two ways to interpret your question, but I'll answer both ways. So foreign students also have to pay the same sticker price, or they are potentially can pay the same sticker price. There's not a different cost of attendance or a different sticker price if you're a foreign student. For state schools, there's definitely, I would call it a different sticker price for in-state versus out-of-state students, but there's not a different sticker price for U.S. citizens versus international students. But the other part of your question is, unfortunately, at a lot of schools, not all, but a lot of schools do not give merit scholarships or may not give merit scholarships to foreign students. So that is something, if you are international, you would want to check into. So you would definitely want to ask a college, are they giving merit scholarships to international students or not? And one reason for this is that, quite honestly, in the past, most foreign students did pay the full sticker price. And that was something that colleges relied on from a revenue standpoint because they knew that they could get more money from an international student, and they use that money to subsidize domestic students. So in addition to just a loss of diversity on college campuses, the big issue of a reduction in the number of foreign students that are coming to the U.S. is a financial impact because, colleges made, quite honestly, more profit off of foreign students that they use to subsidize a lot of their other students. So that's an issue that's, I think, is going to come out much stronger in this coming year because we're definitely going to continue. We've definitely already seen a drop in the applications from international students. Okay, so going back to merit scholarships. It's called Merit Aid. It's definitely a tuition discount at some schools, and I'll show you how you can figure that out. The big difference between merit scholarship money and need-based money, it is not based on your financial situation. So I could be a family with, that makes a lot of good money. I've saved. I basically might have I might have all the money I need to pay for my students' college education, and the college could still offer my student merit because they're not necessarily looking at my financial situation. They're just looking at the academic profile of my student and trying and making their decision on whether to offer the merit based on grades and test scores and potentially other skills that my student has. So that's That's good. It's good for the families that don't have any financial need because that's the only way they're going to get money from the college is if they're applying to the right colleges that want their student. The other good part about it not being based on finances is that if you get need-based aid, nothing wrong with that. And if your family qualifies for it, you should find a college that is willing to give your student need-based aid. Is that aid can fluctuate year to year if your financial situation changes year to year. So um, for students that get need-based financial aid, they are going to fill out financial aid forms every year, and that's going to inform the college about your financial situation. And I've definitely seen the case, and this has actually happened in both directions, where a family actually might have had medical costs one year, and that's a reason why the college determined that they had financial need, and those medical costs went away in the following year, and all of a sudden they didn't kind of realize that impact to the student's financial aid, and they were no longer getting the same amount of aid. So if your student is getting money based on need, it's just a little harder to plan because you don't know exactly how the college might interpret any changes in your financial situation year to year. So somebody's asking, do athletes with competitive academics get better merit scholarship, especially from D3 schools? Great question. I will say off the bat, I actually don't delve into athletic scholarships at D1 schools because that's a whole nother ball game that has to do with the NCAA rules, and that's a specialty that I just don't get involved with. But the question that you're asking is about athletes who are good students who apply to D3 schools. D3 schools do not give out athletic scholarships. They only give out merit scholarships. And yes, your student might get a better merit scholarship if you're an athlete from a D3 school because that's the way the coaches are recruiting athletes to those schools. I mean, for a coach, the best combination is to have a good athlete who has great scores because then they can use merit scholarship money, which isn't coming out of their budget, it's coming out of the admissions budget, to get that student to the college. And then also, obviously, the student with the better grades brings up the team's averages. So yes, there's definitely a potential that an athlete with good scores and good academics will get better merit from a D3 school. Will the number of children in college at any given year make a difference to the amount of scholarship that is given? These are all great questions. Thank you guys for putting them in the Q&A. We'll figure out the chat on another time. But this is a nuanced question about number of children in college. I'm assuming you're saying if you're a family that might have two students in college at the same time, different colleges, would that impact how much those colleges are going to offer your family in need-based aid? Yes and no. So what happened, I think it's now about 2 years ago, is that the federal government changed the methodology about how they calculate a family's need. And part of that change was they took out the factor. They used to count if you had a family that had multiple students in college at the same time, they would take that into account and they would say, hey, this family's, need, with SAI, which we're going to talk about, is, let's say, 30,000. But that's for that family. And so we're going to divide that so that each student, because they have two students in college at the same time, so really each student's financial need is, or SAI is 15,000. That was in the past. Unfortunately, with the changes that came through with the changing of the formula for the FAFSA, they took that away. So now they are calculating a SAI for your student, and it doesn't take into account if they have a sibling that might be in college at the same time. And that definitely has hurt a lot of families with students in college at the same time. The nuanced part of that question is some schools, and usually the schools with more money that they have, whether it's from endowments or just they're more profitable, are willing on a case-by-case basis to adjust that. So particularly schools that ask you to fill out a financial aid form called the CSS profile. Those schools tend to have more money. If you go back to them and you say, hey, I have a student, I have another child that's in college at the same time, will you make some adjustments? They may be willing to review it and on a case-by-case basis make adjustments. So it's not across the board answer that colleges are going to do that, but I would definitely go and ask that of the college. And when your student gets an offer, go back and kind of ask that as part of the appeal process. Will we be able to use the enrollment cliff to our advantage for the class of 2027 freshmen? Another great question. So I don't have access to the chart, but in a previous, like right now, I don't want to kind of dig for it. In a previous presentation, we actually showed what that quote enrollment cliff looks like, kind of like, and it's obviously numbers that people know because it's all based on birth rates from 18 years ago. So the term enrollment cliff, I think, has been used too much or is being relied on too much. And the reason why I say that is the enrollment cliff is happening over like a 13-year period. It's happening, or even 15-year period. It goes from 2026 to 2041. And that's where you see this decline. So over that period, I don't know what the percentage is off the bat. I'm going to say maybe it's like 10, 12%. There's a decline in the number of 18-year-olds that have been born over that time period. And so obviously by 2040, there's going to be, like 12% less 18-year-olds applying to college. But in terms of like the class of 2026, the class of 2027, yes, it has declined, but the decline has been like about 1%. So it's been this enrollment cliff is a very gradual. It's not like whoop whoop. It's not like we drop off of a cliff. So are there going to be fewer students in the class of 2027 that are applying to college versus the class of 2025, which was the peak? Yes. Is it going to be like so much different that it's going to make a huge impact? I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't go into this process kind of thinking, oh, there's fewer students applying, my students from the class of 2027. It's not going to make a huge impact. And especially it's not going to make a big impact at the elite schools, where a lot of students are still applying, regardless of what the number of 18-year-olds that were born 18 years ago. Okay, does taking a gap year hurt the chances of getting a merit scholarship not being a senior in high school? Another good question. There isn't a black and white answer to this question about gap years. Basically, what would happen, and there's two ways your student could handle a gap year. They could actually decide before they even do the admissions process that I'm going to take a gap year. I'm not even going to apply to college this year. I'm going to wait to apply the following year, when I'm in my gap year. So that's one way of handling it. Another way, which probably is the more common way, is that students go through the admissions process and then somewhere like around, maybe January, February, March, they decide, hey, I want to postpone actually going to college. I want to take a gap year. And by then, that way, if you do it that process, your student will see where they got in. They will have to go to the college and tell them that they want to take a gap year, particularly, obviously, the college that they ultimately want to enroll in. And then it's going to actually be a college-by-college basis. Some colleges will say, we'll hold the spot. I have to say, some other colleges will say, we won't. So and then honestly, merit aid, if your student was awarded merit money, there's no guarantee if they take the gap year that they will get it the following year. Because, think about it from just a budget standpoint. The money is coming from that current year's college budget. So again, they may say, we'll give you the same merit scholarship next year or not. It's hard to say. So again, this is going to be a case-by-case basis, talking to the colleges, and then deciding how your student wants to handle the gap year and when they apply to college. For some students, actually taking the gap year and kind of including that information in their application might make their application stronger. So they might want to wait. Or I guess there's a third way, which I didn't mention, is some students just might go through the admissions process twice. They can go through the admissions process as a junior in college, take their gap year, and obviously, and, and then do it again and see if they get better results. Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to move on. I only had the college so far give a sibling discount at the University of Scranton. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. Thank you, Yvette, for kind of sharing your real life results. It's going to be a case by case basis, going back to the college and telling them that you've got another student in college, at a different college, and can they adjust their financial aid estimates. Does applying ED hurt chances of getting merit aid? Okay, last question, but a good question. Um, Again, I don't think there's a black and white answer to this. Um, I would say that if you run a college's net price calculator and the calculator shows you that school is going to offer your student merit aid, then they are going to give the merit aid in early decision, whether your student applies early decision or whether they apply later in the process. For other colleges that are more opaque about whether or not they're giving out merit aid, it's hard to know. And I'll give you the most publicized example from last year, if you guys were on top of the admissions news, not that you should be, but last year, Syracuse University, they have early decision. They, students got in, and some students got merit scholarships, not a ton. And then what happened over the admissions season is that Syracuse realized that they weren't going to hit their numbers. Again, I'm going back to college as a business, and think about the enrollment or the admissions office is like the marketing department, and they got to bring in the revenue. So as it got close to May 1st, which is when most students make their decision, again, Syracuse realized that they weren't getting as many students to accept them as they needed for their numbers. And they went back out to students who they had accepted but who hadn't gotten back to them. And they made enormous offers and increased merit scholarship offers to those students. So that's a case where, and it was like, so the numbers that they were offering students kind of out of the blue. And as this got out, it was just not a good publicity scene or look for Syracuse. And the New York Times wrote about it, and it just was not good PR for them. But for those families that got offered these increased dollar amounts, it was a good deal, and some of them definitely took it. And then what happened was the students who had applied early decision and didn't get offered this type of money were annoyed, rightfully so. So that's a case where early decision kind of hurt those students. So I can't say it's a black and white answer. All I can say is if your students are going to apply early decision, which is it's the strongest commitment in the admissions process, run the net price calculators. They're not always completely accurate, but feel comfortable that whatever that number is, that within kind of a radius of maybe $7,000 or even $10,000, you can afford the college. And that may or may not include merit scholarships. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So there's 3 types of merit scholarships, and these are not official categories. These are just categories that we kind of came up with to better explain the types of scholarships that are out there. There are what we call automatic, and I'll show you some examples, but we call them automatic for 2 reasons. One is because a lot of these colleges put a grid or a chart on their website, and they basically stick to it. And they say, and the grid outlines the GPA, sometimes a test score that a student has to hit. And then if a student applies with that GPA test score, then they automatically get the money that's listed on that chart. We love those colleges. They're the most transparent. You can kind of know ahead of time, hey, my student's applying, they have this certain GPA, I see how much money they're going to get, and the process is pretty open. The other reason why we call it automatic is that there are some colleges, a lot of colleges, where just by the fact that your student is applying in whatever deadline they are, whether it's early or regular, that the college will automatically review your student's application for merit scholarships. It doesn't mean that that college has a particular grid that they are publicizing, but it means that every student who applies is going to be reviewed and considered for merit scholarships. So that's another reason or way of why we call those colleges, or sorry, merit scholarships automatic. Competitive, and I'll show you some examples about this, is that your student is going to need to take more steps than just applying to the college. And it could be that up front, the college makes it very clear that if you want to apply to, if you want to be considered for merit scholarships, you might have to apply by a certain deadline. You might have to fill out an additional application. You might have to write more essays. So that's one version of it being more competitive. Another is that once you apply to the college, then the college reaches out to your student and says, we would like to consider your student for these sets of colleges. So the college is almost doing like a pre-screen, and they're kind of selecting among the students who have already applied to them and communicating to those sets of students and saying, please go further and please apply to these additional competitive scholarships that we have. And it's usually also another application that they need to fill out. So I'll show you some examples of those types of scholarships. And the last is, based on talent. So if your student plays an instrument, is talented in art, particularly theater, dance, there are scholarships that colleges offer, and they don't have to be from, music colleges or consortiums. Your student doesn't actually even have to necessarily, depending on the college, they don't have to major in music. Sometimes students just minoring in music can also apply to these scholarships. But so if your student has one of those talents, definitely look and ask the college if they offer these types of scholarships. What's going to be really important if your student is applying to a scholarship that is going to be based on one of their talents is that usually there's a whole different set of deadlines for those scholarships because, in art, a scholarship for art, they're going to ask to send in a portfolio. That's going to be based on a different deadline. A student that might be applying because of theater, there could be auditions. That's going to have a different set of deadlines. So deadlines in general become really important, but particularly if your student is applying based on a talent, you really have to understand the process and the deadlines to get them into the process so that they can be part of those review processes. Okay. Somebody is asking, do you have a list of colleges that have the automatic merit scholarships? Unfortunately, we don't, and I'll tell you why. It's because it changes every year, and we just don't honestly. And I haven't seen anybody who really has the bandwidth of going out and confirming if colleges are doing automatic merit scholarships. What we're going to show you is we can show you the colleges that give merit scholarships, and we can show you how you can kind of identify whether your student is a good candidate for merit scholarship there. And then it's best at that point that you look deeper to find out if your student, if the college is offering it on an automatic basis or not. You're going to actually have to do that anyhow, even if there was this standard list of colleges that offer automatic merit scholarships. Just because they're automatic doesn't mean that your student would actually get one. So you'd still need to go through the list and match which of those colleges your student is has the grades for. So I wish I could say yes, but we don't have that pure list of colleges with automatic merit scholarships. Okay, so let's go on because gosh, the hour goes fast. Okay, this is just an example of that really transparent type of school that has a grid on their website and shows you, if your student, and this is from this is this current admission season for the Miami University of Ohio. If my student applied there and they had, a 4.3 GPA, which is a weighted one, um, I know that they would at least get a minimum of $8,000 if they were an in-state student, and they could get, and if they were out-of-state student, they would get a minimum of 20,000, and they might get more. So this is a school that's very transparent. They have the grid, and that's great. What's also interesting about these grids, and I just so happen to have been kind of following this college over the years. You can see at the bottom right, this is from 2021, which was actually right the first year of the pandemic. Um, they actually in 2020 they used to have a grid that showed GPA and test scores. They took that away because they went test optional. But you can see that their top level they have increased. They increased the GPA cutoff from 2021 to 2024. They've kept that GPA cutoff from 2024 to 2026, but they actually, in this case, a good change is they increased what the starting value of the scholarships are. So in 2025, if you were an in-state student, the starting value at that top range was 4,000. Out of state, it was 15,000, and then this year they increased it from 8,000 to 20,000. So that's good news. But you can see again, this is the business of admissions that they use these the scholarship money to attract a certain type of a student, whether it's an out-of-state student that they want more of, whether it's a student with certain grades. They're making it, honestly, they're sweetening the pot, to get stronger academic students to their college. So if you find colleges with these grids, that's great. Some very well-known ones off the top are University of Alabama tends to have one. I think University of Tennessee has one. For whatever reason, maybe the state schools tend to be a little bit more transparent if they're going to recruit, students based on merit scholarships. I think also the state schools tend to have these grids because they want to attract more out-of-state students. Because for this example, even though an out-of-state student is getting a $20,000 discount or merit scholarship, I don't know off the top of my head what the cost of attendance is at Miami University. It's definitely higher than an in-state cost of attendance. So the colleges might be giving more money to the out-of-state student, but they are netting more revenue from that out-of-state student because that out-of-state student is still paying more than the in-state student. Okay. Here's a example of two different colleges that offer competitive merit scholarships. One on the left is University of Southern California. And the reason why I showed this example is this is a college where you have to apply by a certain deadline to be considered for merit scholarships. So, and this also sometimes changes year to year. A few years ago, University of Southern California didn't actually even have early action, but they just had this deadline of November 1st. You had to apply November 1st to be considered for merit scholarships. Their regular decision deadline is December 1st. And if you apply December 1st, which you can, you just won't be considered for merit scholarships. Now they have actually added this option of early action, and you have to apply early action to be considered for merit scholarships. And I've seen that more and more across the board at colleges that they're using merit scholarships. Another way that they're using it as a marketing tool is they want to get students to apply earlier. It's better for them to know who's interested in them earlier. It's better for them from just a capacity standpoint. They can smooth out, how much work they have over the whole admission process. And, it is better for your student to get that information earlier as well as whether or not they're going to be accepted or declined or how much money they might get. It does start to put much more pressure on students. They have to make their decisions earlier, and it tends that they have a lot of essay work to do. at the beginning of the senior year. So there's a lot of work that students are doing to write essays. Again, that's why we encourage them to start even. We used to just like hope that they would start in August. Now, quite honestly, it's really better if they can start in June, July, even in the spring, because these essays can really pile up. Okay, so I'm going to jump. Well, I'm going to do this really quickly about SAI, and then I'm going to jump to show you our tool and our new report because I think it will be really helpful. But basically, SAI is Student Aid Index. It's the outcome of filling out the FAFSA. And it is the number that is going to help you determine whether or not you might get need-based aid from a college, or you're not going to get any need-based aid and you need to look for colleges with merit scholarships. Here, I'm going to, oh, here's a grid, and you will, you can, look at the recording if you want to look at this more deeply. This is an estimate of using your household income and your assets for the parent, what type of an SAI you might get. This, I mean, I'm showing this because it's a nice chart. It's easy for you to kind of like look and see where you might fall depending on what your income is and your assets. What I can tell you is what I've kind of started changing in our recommendations for the past year is go directly to the government website, for FAFSA, and create an FSAID, which is what you need to do to start a FAFSA, and actually fill out the real FAFSA. You do not need to be a student, a senior in high school. You do not need to be an existing college student to fill out a FAFSA. Anybody can go fill out the FAFSA. And so I would encourage the parents in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, go fill out the actual FAFSA. No, a college is not going to see it because you're not going to put in any college codes for them to pull the information. And then you will get your actual SAI. And if your income is not changing that much year to year, then this will likely be close to the SAI that will be used during the real admission season when your student applies. And that's the most accurate, number that you can use. So just Google, studentaid.gov, FAFSA, and you will come to the site. It'll also give you a little practice of what you need to do to set up your account, and it's much easier than it used to be in the past. Okay, let me answer some of these quick questions, and I'm going to move on. Is the 529 account considered a parent asset? Yes. If the 529, if the beneficiary is for that student, and the parent is the owner, then it is a parent asset. If the beneficiary is a sibling, then for the FAFSA purposes, then the 529 is still a parent asset, but you don't have to report it on the FAFSA because it's not going to be the FAFSA for that student. For some CSS profile schools, when they ask for 529 accounts, they want to know all your 529 accounts, whether it's for the student applying to college or for siblings. So that's the distinction. Does income year to year adjust for inflation? No, it doesn't. Wish it did. How to do the FAFSA for divorced parents? I don't know my ex's income or assets. How can we fill out confidentially? So for divorced parents, the FAFSA is slightly more complicated just because of deciding who's going to fill it out. For the FAFSA of divorced parents, there's only one parent who fills it out, and it's the parent who financially supports the student more than the other parent. And so you can make that decision about who that parent is. And so it only looks at one income, one set of assets. That is to some extent the advantage, if you're divorced, of applying to schools with just the FAFSA. If you're divorced and applying to a school that's looking at the CSS profile, they're going to ask for everybody's information. So there you do need to know, and both divorced parents will fill out the form separately. They will not see each other's information, but it also makes it harder to estimate what your financial need might be at those colleges because you're not going to know what your ex's information is. So I actually even had a parent just email me over the holiday asking, is there a way for him to figure out which schools only use the FAFSA because he was divorced and that was advantageous to him. And there is a way, and we can show you. Okay, do you know if the grandparents have a 529 in the student's name, does that count as parent asset? It does not because the grandparent is the owner. So, remember that in 529s, the beneficiary, just because it's your student, they don't own the account. The owner, in this case, it would be the grandparents. So that is no longer included in 529s. Sorry, no longer included in the FAFSA. It used to be, but so that's not the case. So which form do divorced parents both fill out? I didn't hear it. It's called the CSS profile. One parent is going to fill out the main CSS profile, and then another parent is going to fill out the non-custodial CSS profile. Same information. It's just kind of called the non-custodial so that they know it's coming from a divorced parent. Okay, let me move on so that we can. There's still more to do, and we're running out of time. So here's the most important reason why you want to know your SAI. You want to understand, as a family, could I potentially get need-based aid from a college? And it's going to vary college by college because your family's need, right, which is this formula here, is going to be the cost of attendance, which is that sticker price I mentioned, minus the student aid index, which you're going to get from FAFSA. And that difference is how much that college feels how needy you are. So if the cost of attendance varies, which is going to vary by college, then your family needs going to vary. So here's an example on the left where the family's student aid index is 30,000. At one college, the cost of attendance is 50,000. So their need, they have a financial need because their SAI is less than the cost of attendance. Their need is 20,000. Okay. But at a different school, their need is 50,000. So their SAI stayed the same, but what their financial need is varied because the cost of attendance varied. In any case, this family should look for colleges that are willing to give need-based aid because that's a source of money that their student could be eligible for. On the right is an example of a family that has a very high SAI. So their SAI is 90,000. For most colleges, not all colleges anymore these days, because some have gotten into the, around the $100,000 cost of attendance number. But for most colleges, an SAI of 90,000 is pretty high, and it's going to be above the cost of attendance, right? So if your SAI is above the cost of attendance, then you don't have family need. So in this case, the first example, if a family applies to a school that has a $40,000 cost of attendance, well, they're not going to get any need because they don't have any. And even in the second case, if they apply to a school that has a cost of attendance of 80,000, they have no need. So for this family, this type of family, the only way that they're going to get money from a college is if their student applies to a school that offers merit scholarships. So you can see there's like several levels of decisions you have to understand. Where does my family fit in terms of financial need, which is going to depend on your SAI and the cost of attendance? And then does that college even offer merit scholarships? Not every college does. And if the college offers merit scholarships, how much do they offer? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second and pull up another website. Okay, let's go back to sharing. And okay, so for anybody, I realize I can't even put this in chat because I don't have a good chat, but for anybody who wants to try this out, you can go to insights.roadtocollege.com. And this is our tool with a lot of information that helps you figure out some of the things that I just talked about. I'm just going to you can log in with a free account. It's limited, but you can get a sense of what information is in there. And if you have a free account, if you have a paid account, you'll be able to do everything that I'm going to show. So I'm going to quickly log in. There's a dashboard. I'm just for the sake of time, I'm going to just jump to the data part. But you'll get you can there's we have a library with videos, we have deals with partners. We have an area when your student gets to the point where they have to track their applications. But I'm going to go over to Discover, which is all of our data. And you can see here that we have a lot of data fields. I mean, some of the basic ones of what region is the college in, how many undergraduates does it have, what the endowment is per student, what percent of the student population is male versus female. That is actually becoming an important distinction these days because there are more females going to college than males. There's definitely been a decline in males wanting to go to college. And in some colleges, the gap is becoming big. Tulane is one that comes to mind where the percentage of male versus female is there's just a much higher female population. And the reason I bring that up is that for some schools, they might be using the fact that your student is male and has good criteria and that gives them a little bit more of a bump to be accepted. Okay. There's information such as the sophomore retention rate is how many students, come back the following year, which of course, honestly, and I don't know much about Adams State University, but a return rate of 56% isn't that great. You want to be up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So let me just skip. Somebody asked about honors colleges and honors programs and co-ops. So we have that information here as well. More about the demographics. We show whether the school is test optional, test required. Most of them these days are test optional, but more and more schools are changing that to go back to the test required. Here's some information. If this school is sharing it, we also include what percentage of the students, even though it's test optional, what percentage of the students are still submitting their SAT scores and submitting their ACT scores. This is also calculated off of the number of students who actually enroll, but it gives you a sense. It doesn't tell you of the students who applied, how many applied with their SAT scores and ACT scores. It's of the students who enrolled, how many sent in their ACT scores or SAT scores. But it helps you to get a sense that even though the school is test optional, if a lot of students who enrolled sent in their test scores, then they might have been test optional, but they're still heavily looking at the test scores because those are the students who they accepted and ultimately enrolled. So it's important to look at those numbers. Okay, now in terms of merit scholarships, I keep saying that colleges are going to want a student that has a stronger academic profile. So how do you know that your student has a stronger academic profile? It's by looking at these percentages, right? So the 50th percentage is a student that's kind of like smack in the middle of all the students that apply to that school. But the 75th percentile is the stronger student. So if your student has a test score where their 75th percentile, where their test score puts them at the 75th percentile or above, then you know that your student is stronger for that particular college, and your student is going to be more attractive, academically for that college. So this information is most available for test scores, SAT and ACT scores. If the GPA information, colleges just don't share it as openly, or they just don't I think the issue is, and I once talked to an admissions officer about this, is they don't recalculate it for everybody so that it's standardized information. By default, the SAT and ACTs is standardized. That's part of the name. So they don't have to do anything to share that information. To share the GPA information, they have to do more recalculating, which a lot of schools just don't do. So I recommend, even if your student is going to apply test optional, that they still use their test score to maybe screen out some of the colleges or to find the colleges where they're going to be most attractive academically too. So just because you're using the test score from a research standpoint doesn't mean that your student has to use it to submit. But then again, quite honestly, if your student has a score which puts them in the 75th percentile or above, I would recommend that they share their test score, even if it's test optional, because it shows that they're a strong candidate. So looking at this 75th percentile breakout is really important. Okay, looking at here, we break out admission rates. The overall admit rate is everything combined together. It's the, whatever, if this college had early action, early decision, it's all blended together. But if a college has, and let's actually like sort this database. If a college has early decision, right, we list it. And then we break out regular decision, right? So if you notice, I'm just kind of looking at the numbers that are on the screen. Bowdoin has a 14% early decision rate, but their regular decision rate is 6%. And that's because of these other numbers, because early decision, they are accepting a chunk of students who are committing. You know that those students are coming. So if Bowdoin is accepting 54% of their class early, that means that there's only 46% of the number of seats left for regular decision. And what happens is the regular decision applications tend to be there are more students who are applying regular decisions, so it's just a numbers game. That's why the admission rate is lower during regular decision. There's more applications going after slightly fewer seats, and so it looks like it's harder to get in, which it is because there's more applications fighting for a smaller number of seats. So these are really important numbers to also look at, mainly in helping to decide for your students, should we apply early decision? Is there a little bit more of a possibility of them getting in? But take that decision seriously. And it's not a decision you need to make now. You're just kind of in the research phase. Okay, so somebody's asking, can we move to the specific agenda for today's call? This is the agenda of explaining merit scholarships and understanding how you find them for your student. It's understanding the data. There's not honestly a magic answer as to, oh, show me the colleges. Well, there kind of is, but it doesn't, but it's you understanding the data that helps you find the colleges where your student can get the merit scholarships. So I'm just walking through some of the data. You can actually filter this information. And I'm going to show you. So that 75th percentile I told you was important. You can go say, if my student has a test score of, let's say, 1350, I want to see schools that have, that 75th percentile. I'm going to look for a range, maybe between 1300 and 1400. Okay. I could just apply that. Okay. Now I can see these are all the schools where my student's academic, test score kind of puts them in the 75th percentile and above. I can now also put another filter that says, because we have information about what the average merit award is for freshmen, and I want to find a college that has an average merit award, let's say, greater than or equal to or let's say $1,000. Okay. So now this list is going to show me the colleges where my student is academically strong and that college offers merit. So there might be colleges on the list where my student was academically strong, but they didn't give merit. So in this combo, let's see, there are 212 colleges that give merit and where my student is going to be in the 75th percentile. This is the list that you want to be searching because this is the list of colleges where your student has the highest likelihood of getting merit scholarships and the colleges offer merit scholarships. So let's actually scroll down to the column about merit scholarships. You can just do a search. So here's the column where average merit for freshmen without need. And now I can actually sort this column of this 212 schools. Let me sort it the other way. Sorry. And I can see which of the colleges give the most. So Kalamazoo College is giving $48,000 to students in terms of merit scholarships. Beloit College is getting $44,000. So now I can zone in on the colleges where my student is academically strong and those colleges give merit scholarships. Now I should really be researching these colleges more in depth. Do they have the majors my student is interested in? How do I feel? How does my student feel about the location? How large is this school? And I call it kind of like, well, there's qualitative research and quantitative research. What I'm showing you is the quantitative research. At some point, you're going to have to get off the numbers and do the qualitative research by, looking at the college's website, talking to students, deciding on going on a visit. But now at least if you're going to do qualitative research, that it's a school that potentially you can afford and your student has a strong chance of getting merit scholarships. Another column that we have here that you could filter by is what we did is we created the net cost. So what's the net cost of that college after a student gets the average merit amount? So if you wanted to go and filter even among these schools and say, I have to get that filter. Let's see, net cost after merit. Maybe I want to find a college with a net cost after merit that is greater or equal to 20,000. Okay, now let's see. Now we're down to 133 schools. So now, actually, sorry, you know what? I should have done that the other way. Let's look at the filters. I should have done less than. Let's do less than or equal to, let's say 50,000. Or, yeah, probably going to be fewer schools, but let's see. Okay, 110 schools. So there's 110 schools where my student is strong academically, the college gives merit, and the net of what that college could cost me is 50,000 or less. So this is the way you use the data to find the colleges that fit your family financially. Then there are other fields you can obviously filter by. Here's a field about, does the college require the CSS profile? If you're a divorced family and you only want to find FAFSA colleges, you can use that as a filter. You could say, I want schools where my student has a chance of getting merit, that they're going to be strong academically, and that they only take the FAFSA. So that's another way that you could filter down these schools. And then from all of this work, you can create lists. So I could say, I'm interested in, these 3 schools or 4 schools. I'm going to add them to a list. And I can create a list with a new name, or maybe I happen to have a lot of lists. I can add them to an existing list that I already have. And then if you may not do all this research at once, then I can come back and kind of look at my lists. I could share my lists with other people. So that's a way to kind of use this data. Let me show you one other tool or a report that we just created, and we'll be sending these links. It is called, roadtocollege.com. This is completely free. Dash comparison college dash comparison dash report. Okay, so here you can pick 3 colleges. You know what? I just realized I might be able to run this. Let's pick Beloit as a college because we just shown it. Let's pick University of Pittsburgh as another college. And let's pick New York University as a 3rd college. Okay? So you can pick those 3 colleges. Yeah, you have to just tell us a little bit about your student. Okay, he's a junior And I'm going to put in my name. And I have to create an address. Let's just say, and then it's going to create my report. Um, but actually, I have to wait. I just realized I have to wait and get an email to get a copy of the report. Let me see if my email has come yet. Okay, no. Um, Let me get you a sample of the report because I think it's pretty cool. Um, Let me just stop sharing for a second. And then are these, so um, the question about are these tools only available to subscribers? This report, which I'm trying to show you, is you can get one free. And if you subscribe, you can do it unlimited. And then if you, oh, here it is. If you're free, um, if you create a free account in Insights, you can test out the data. You don't get access to all the data, but if you subscribe, you get access to everything. So let me show you my report. I did get it. Let me share my screen back again. Okay. So here's what all we did was we took the data that we had and we made it simpler for you to see if you want to compare three colleges. So here's Beloit, University of Pittsburgh. What we did also is we stratified all the colleges based on the merit money that they give, and we put them into categories: very generous, not so generous, or kind of moderately. I think we have like 5 different categories. So you, again, can quickly assess if that college offers a lot of money or not. Um, Beloit is very generous among all the colleges that give money. University of Pittsburgh, it's moderate. You'll actually find for out-of-state students, they give a little bit more money than in-state students. NYU, I don't know why people don't figure this out earlier when they apply, but they don't give out hardly any merit money at all. It's not a generous school. They want most of the families to pay sticker price. So now you can quickly see that. We also show you what the college reports as their average merit amount. And even though it says that NYU gives out $23,000, what you're not seeing is that they only give it to a small percentage of students. So they might only give it to like 2 or 3%. One other piece of information I realized I didn't show you is that we crowdsource information. So on this report, we're also showing you what the range is that parents have shared with us about how much their student actually got. And it's interesting to see how the numbers compare to what the college reports. And here's where you kind of like the two either support each other or they don't. So for Beloit, that most parents said that they receive between 40,000 and 54,000. In fact, their average is 47,000, which is slightly higher than what the college has reported. For Pittsburgh, or Pitt, most students are, are getting between 1,000 and 80,000. The 80,000 is definitely on the high side. Pitt does give out a few full ride scholarships, but they're to a small percentage. But you can see that the average is about 12% that parents have reported, which is slightly higher than the 8,000. That might be because we had people who reported it that were more out-of-state students. And then you can see here that NYU, they claim that they give 23,000, and they might on average to a few students, but on the parents who told us what they got, the range was just about $500. So you can see, even though, and that's what substantiates that they are not a generous college. So this is just a good report. Then we show you the cost of attendance. We show you what this estimated net cost is after merit. It varies for in-state versus out-of-state. Here's the test score information. For SAT, for ACT, whether or not their test required or optional, and then just more information about the profile. So this again is free. I'll send a link, but it's basically insights.roadtocollege.com. college comparison report. This is free for anybody. If you become a subscriber, you can run this report multiple times. So I have definitely gone over. So sorry about that. I'm going to scroll through and see if there's any questions I can answer. I really apologize about the chat. I got to get that fixed. But let's see what questions there are. I tried to use the Insights tool with a free account before, but I got an error about a website security. I don't know if you were trying it during the holiday break, like honestly around December 25th for a few days. We did have a glitch on our website, so that might have been the reason why you had that security issue, but you shouldn't have it now. We fixed it. And definitely if you have a paid membership, you'll have access. If you ever have any issues, you can send a message to support@roachcollege.com and we will help you out. Is there an option to search by total cost with merit, or do you have to do the math yourself? Yep, I think you got the answer. It's the net cost after merit. Net cost after merit is for 1 year. Yes, all the numbers that we are showing you are 1 year. It's the cost of attendance to apply for 1 year. It's the average merit that the student's going to get for 1 year. So good question to ask. Are these tools available only to subscribers? I think I answered that. There's some version of them that's available for free, but all of the data is for paid. And let me just tell you, I mean, hopefully, we kind of are just trying to cover our costs. We don't make a ton of money, but the fee is on an annual base. Sorry, on a monthly basis, it's $24.99. Some people subscribe for just a month, 2 or 3 months to do their research, and then they can cancel. We do have annual memberships because maybe you're just not quite sure how long you want to be researching or you want to save lists. Then we actually have what we call a premium membership, which in addition to the access to the tool, we also invite you to monthly webinars that we have on all the different topics related to college admissions. And they are led by a former college dean. She was the dean of admissions at Colby College for many, many years. And now she retired from being an official dean, but she is interim dean at a lot of colleges. So I love working with her. Her name is Terry Cowdrey because she has seen and worked at so many colleges that her breadth of knowledge and her advice is great. Okay. Does the college tool break down any data by demographics other than gender? I mean, we have we have race, but we can't break down, honestly, that nobody has the information like acceptances by race or merit scholarship by race numbers. So that information just isn't, I don't even think it's collected. And if it is, it's definitely not shared these days. I don't think it ever was shared. And is the search tool only good to find merit scholarship or also need-based aid? It is definitely also good for need-based aid. I didn't show you, but for those of you who have still stuck around, I will show you the need-based aid part of it. Sharon, going back in to share. If I go back to Discover. So one of those filters, I'm going to take off all of these filters, but one of the filters and one of the columns is need. Here, I'll just show you that column. So it's the percent of need met, and we also have a column called the what the average need was that the student got. So percent of need met, what that means is when your family need is calculated, if they look at your cost of attendance minus your student aid index, like what's left over, what each college makes a decision is how much of that need are we going to cover for students. As you can see, the colleges that are on the screen, so there's some colleges that are very generous. The colleges that are very generous for need tend to not be generous for merit. It's usually one or the other. There's a small subset of schools that kind of give need and give merit, but it's usually that colleges are in the camp of we are very generous for need-based families, or there are other colleges that we are generous for merit scholarships. So just so happens what's on the screen are some of these very need-based generous colleges. Duke University, they're going to cover 100%. So if your student is a very strong academic student, and your family tends to have a lot of need. I mean, if your student can get into some of these, and they also tend to be very selective schools that are very generous for need-based families. If your student can get into one of these very generous need-based families schools and they have the academics to be accepted, you kind of, to some extent, hit the jackpot because you're going to get a lot of your college costs covered. So you can filter the database by any of these columns. So that's another way you can use the database to look for colleges that are generous for need-based aid. Somebody asked, how current is the list? How often does it get updated? Another great question. Most of this data is from something called the Common Data Set. And I do another webinar just talking about what the Common Data Set is. The Common Data Set only gets updated once a year. This, the numbers really don't shift that much during the year, right? Because it's all based on an admission season. So, the amount of money that the college offers, they only kind of make these decisions once a year. So it's not changing month to month. So the Common Data Set gets updated and is published. Usually it starts being published in the March, April timeframe, but the bulk of colleges usually share it over the summer. And so we do a major update, and most websites do a major update in August. So August is when a lot of this information is updated, but it doesn't mean that the data that you're looking at now isn't useful. It's extremely useful because the numbers don't shift that much year to year. So a college that is generous with need-based aid is going to just, if they were generous last year, they're going to tend to be generous, like going forward. Maybe the average amount that they award might shift a little bit, but it's only going to shift probably like 1,000 up or down. You're not going to see major changes. So the database is as up to date as the information that is available. The only thing that I will say is, and people might be looking for it, the admissions numbers are not going to be the admission numbers that just are like you're just hearing about from like early decision in December. The reason why we don't make that update is because then you would be comparing admission rates from one season with another in the same line items. I'm not. Let me explain myself better. So if we updated the early decision data, right, which actually a lot of schools don't even share it publicly until they share their common data set. You definitely have seen a trickle of some, but that would mean for some schools we would have this, current early decision data, and then for majority of the other schools we wouldn't because they're not all updating at the same time. Plus, we would only have early decision data and we wouldn't have the data for, regular decision. So you're kind of comparing, apples and oranges. We like to keep all of the data, from the same admissions year. Then maybe you should kind of think about it like that. It's all from the same admission season. The admission data is from the same season. The average, the net costs, the merit scholarships, they're all from the same season. There's actually a lot of other good information here. I just don't have the time to go through it, but there's one more. Let's look here. Let's look at, I don't know, Bennington inform. There's, we actually share, this is the, crowdsource information. Actually, oops, that's not what I wanted. Let me show another school that I know has a lot more crowdsourced information that would be interesting to look at. Let's look at University of Pittsburgh. Okay, so here's the crowdsourced information, which this is probably our most valuable information, and it's the most unique. Other websites do not have this. So this is from this current admission season because people are sharing their results. This is from 2026, the academic year 2026, 2027. So these are students who are going to start in the fall, but are getting their decisions now. And this is for University of Pittsburgh. You can see we have 48 offers of people telling us what their student got in, what the stats are of their student, what their SAT, the ACT score. If they don't list it, that means that they didn't submit it. And when they applied and how much money they got. So you can see, here's a good example. University of Pittsburgh. This is a student, offer number 12, that is out of state. They're from New Jersey. They had a good GPA, 4.3, a good, strong SAT, and they got $20,000. So they obviously got more because they are out of state. Let's see. That's interesting. Oh, wait, there was one here, a Pennsylvania student. They got 10,000. So they got less because they have an in-state tuition. So this is really great information. And now you can also look at last year's results. Obviously, we have more because this is both from last year. We have early decision results as well as regular decision. And it's just really, interesting to see the actual results and how it matches up to what the school reports and what their average is. I think what's most valuable, besides looking at what the students were actually offered, is to also see the test scores, the GPA of the students who got in, just to get a sampling. So for Pitt, average merit award is $8,000 per year. That's what you're asking. Yes, average merit award is $8,000, but you can see that a lot of the out-of-state students are getting more. So, here, this is from last year. Maryland got 15,000, another Maryland got 15,000, Massachusetts got 15,000. So, that 8,000 per year, actually, that is from the college, but that's probably a blend of out-of-state, of merit scholarships that are offered to out-of-state students and merit scholarships offered to in-state. And obviously, the in-state students are going to be less. That's why it's good that you see these average of 8,000, but you can also look at specific offers and kind of like it's very clear that the out-of-state students are getting more. Okay, I've now officially gone an hour and a half. I've gone a half hour over what I said. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We have a lot of other webinars planned, webinars that we're going to talk about the changes to the loans. We've got webinars with a company that we work with about 529 plans, so you can learn more about that. We've got webinars for, I don't know if anybody seniors here, to talk about how to do appealing. So just pay attention to your emails. I know we all get a lot of emails these days, but we will send out emails with what the upcoming webinars are, the registration links. I will get the chat working again. So thank you, everyone. Nice to see you. Great questions. And reach out with any questions in general. Give Insights and our new report a try. And my goal is to educate you. I really feel that most families can do a lot of the work on their own with the right tools and with the right access to the data. That's my goal. We do work with families one-on-one, but we only tend to work with families one-on-one helping with essays because that's obviously more of like a one-on-one situation. But to help you create a college list, I really think if families work together, you know your student the best, you know your finances the best, dig in and start doing the research. We also do one-on-one consultations if you have like specific financial situations and you want to, make sure maybe you're having a hard time figuring out how much you could really afford to pay for college, or if you're going to take out loans, how much you can afford to really borrow. So those are also like one-on-one situations. But this research, it's doable, and I really encourage everybody to take a stab at it. Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you again soon. Bye.